they haven't been playing that hot. Look at the games. They got bounced by Missouri at home, kind of sleepwalking. Before that, they really dropped the ball against Arkansas. They were really sluggish. And Arkansas, if they weren't abysmal offensively that night, Arkansas should have beat them. They really dropped the ball there. You fast forward, they were on the road in South Carolina. And if not for a heroic comeback and a buzzer beater shot, they would have taken a big fat L.
3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome in here to Sub-Zero Sports. I'm your host, Andrew Jupe, and it's a fun one here as we preview some of the action for some of your Saturday NCAA basketball games. So it's all about the ball on Saturday. So we'll go with the NCAA action. A couple women's games going to be sprinkled into the mix as well. Some of one we will kind of tell you about what to watch, what to like for, maybe even make some picks. So we'll keep those later. Maybe just keep those on social media as we're still getting some factors. I want to double check some injury reports as we go forward here. First game on the mix, though, really important ones. This is going to be in the noon window. So we're going to go from earliest start to latest start. That's the order we're going to go in. So as we kind of bounce around between conferences, between men's, between women's basketball, track with us now here. This is what we have going on. SMU at NC State. Really fun contest here. This is a fringe game here for the teams in the ACC. This is kind of a level 3 in the ACC. I think you can consider it. Is you have Duke at the top tier. You have probably Louisville, Wake Forest, Clemson, and kind of that tier 2. Those teams, we can be pretty confident that the ACC gets 4, right? But then you get into this next quadrant of the ACC is probably trending between 4 to 6 teams. Can you slip in? Can you get into that category? SMU, NC State, both these teams are going to be fighting significantly for an opportunity. And you have to take care of business versus teams that are on your opposite or on your level. So can you take care of teams that are on your level? And can you go get some upsets here from some of those top tier teams? So this will go far into seeing both of these teams making their candidacy for March. Yeah, another one on the slate, 12:30 window, is going to be Georgetown at Providence. So Georgetown, although these two teams may not be on your radar, Georgetown's getting into the bubble conversation. So they're a team with some big wins who, if the tournament started today, probably outside looking in, but have the capacity, have been playing well, and potentially could get back into the mix with their great defense. Upset Villanova on the road the other day. Big victory for them. They're going to go to Providence as part of this extended road trip, and this is more of a danger one, a speed bump, a landmine, if you will, here for Georgetown. It's going to be tough. Cannot afford to drop one against Providence, one of the teams coming in the bottom half of the conference. It's going to be really tough for Providence to get in. They would have to do some serious work in the next couple months, but this is more for Georgetown. Can they avoid the big hiccup and get through, keep on doing what they've doing, show us what we saw earlier against Villanova not too long ago in the defense that have been giving a lot of teams trouble in conference play. Can they continue that solid effort and make their case as a tournament team? Maybe not one that's 100% on your radar, but in the automatic bid conversation, we're looking at MEAC basketball. Some teams that may not be on your level right now, but some that are on the top of the conference, Howard and Norfolk State, going at a contest this Saturday. Norfolk's going to be hosting. Howard coming in undefeated, top of the conference. But not to dog the Bison, but I'm waiting. Jury's still out for me. I don't know if they're the top dog in the MEAC. If it were me, I'd probably have to put money on South Carolina State. Would probably be my team that would go forward and be the kind of conference championship if I had to guess today, like what they've done in conference, and they're out of conference as well with matchups against Xavier and the competition that they've given other teams. I like them. But this is a show-me game for the Bison. If they take down Norfolk, look good in that contest, I'll be more convinced that Howard's going to be coming up because, as a footnote, they dropped 2 games in a row to D2 squads. They played their significant lineup. They weren't playing the backups against Bowie State and against Morehouse. So those 2 games were both L's. So something to note or not. That's also kind of the threshold, right? As you slip in, there's not a big gap between D2 and D1 schools. I know Morehouse shot the lights out, so shout out to them for getting the big upset. And Bowie State looked really strong. 2 really fun teams in D2. But you got to start to take some interest. Is this more of what Howard's going to look like, seeing what we've seen so far this season? But that's going to go a long ways here in the MEAC for that position jostle, because you think about it, it's probably a 4-horse race. I know it's early. They're only 3-4 games into conference play, but you look at Howard, you look at Norfolk State, you look at NC Central, and you look at South Carolina State. I think the winner comes from those 4. Like I said, I'm with South Carolina State for now, as we are here late January, but that's going to be a big one for positioning coming soon. Another game we can jump down to. Let's talk about SEC. Everybody's love here in basketball season. Projected at 13 teams. I'm not buying 13, but we shall see. So it's going to be Mississippi State number 14 at South Carolina. South Carolina played a heck of a game versus Florida earlier in the week, but a buzzer beater gave Florida the win, number 5 in the country. Mississippi State, little bit of question marks here. South Carolina at home. This could be a potential upset. If you're looking for a shock and all and you get some good odds, look at South Carolina, not to be underestimated, though the record and the conference record do not showcase that much success that you'll see. Going further down the list, see what we got. Another team. If you're looking for top 10 teams to put on upset alert, look no further than Michigan State. I love what they've done so far this season, but they're going against an underrated Rutgers team. I think they're only coming in at 3-5 in the conference, but to a lot of people, they've got 2 of the maybe top 20, top 25 players here in the nation. So don't sleep on them. Rutgers, New Jersey, going to give Michigan State some problems here. So not saying that Scarlet Knights get the upset, but wouldn't be surprised if it's a good game and something to be said. And I think the line respects that. You see a team at the bottom of the conference only given 5.5 to the number 8 team in the country. I think the odds makers here are with me. Look out for the Scarlet Knights to give Michigan State some trouble. Further down the list, let's go over to the women's ball. Florida A&M on the road to Alcorn State. So, of course, the Rattlers hitting the road. Our local flavor here in North Florida, so we're about that. Of course, supporting our local teams. Let's go. I like the Rattlers here. Have not played too hot on the road. I think they're 1-7 in road contest. I like their chances as they continue to churn through this season. Picked up a couple dubs over the last couple weeks, so I'm liking where the momentum's going. Give me the Rattlers on the road, which will put them over, I believe, 500 there in conference play. Continue, hit that progress meter. Let's go. Rolling on down the line, rivalry game, back to the men's side of the ball, back to the SEC. If you love it, Texas A&M and Texas. This, by the metrics, I don't really see Texas coming away with this one, but Texas is favored. Texas is favored by 1.5. And so that's pretty wild. I know Texas A&M has some good stuff going. They're getting their players back from injury. So this kind of seems like a weird one that I don't really understand, but they like something about Texas. So something to keep an eye on, something to keep your ears perked up. But that's going to be a game to watch early. That's going down at 2:00. So we're only in the first couple hours of Saturday, and it's going to be fun. Let's get rolling for some more games of interest. Let's keep it in the SEC. Another top 10 team, Kentucky, going on the road at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt with the big upset against the top 10 Tennessee not too long ago with the buzzer beater here. So don't sleep on that. Vanderbilt been playing above their weight, so not an automatic one going for Kentucky here, though they are one of my favorite teams that's in the top 15 right now. I love kind of the grit that they're showing, the gameplay style that they're going with. A couple bumps in the road for them. Everybody's got some imperfections, but they'll get tested more so than you would think at Vanderbilt. On down the line, SEC, once again, top 5. Now, this is another one, upset alert. I've been dogging the Gators for a couple of weeks now. So that's not only my FSU bias, but we're not going to rule that out. So obviously there's an explicit bias always with Florida, but they haven't been playing that hot. Look at the games. They got bounced by Missouri at home, kind of sleepwalking. Before that, they really dropped the ball against Arkansas. They were really sluggish, and Arkansas, if they weren't abysmal offensively that night, Arkansas should have beat them. They really dropped the ball there. You fast forward, they were on the road in South Carolina, and if not for a heroic comeback and a buzzer beater shot, they would have taken a big fat L versus Columbia. Really, since they've beaten Tennessee at 1. I know they had a good return at Texas when they got the win against them, but since they beat Tennessee when they were number 1 undefeated, they've been shaky, and there's been question marks. So if you're looking for some action here, Georgia, they were just in the top 25. Florida's getting 9.5. I would look at Georgia potentially maybe to be pulling a little upset special. Florida got some work to do here, getting a little midseason slump. Another one going down the line. These are tournament teams, once again, bubble conversation. So I think this is more bubble extended, but this time of year, 2 months out, we're starting to look at teams that are in the net, in the RPI, in the rankings, 35 to 50, right? So they're not going to get the automatic bids probably, but they're jostling for those at-large, your 9, 10, 11s, potentially playing teams for some of these bigger conferences. 2 of these teams that have had some good wins over the past couple of weeks, TCU and UCF. UCF hosting this one. They're favored by 4.5, over under at 146. So you put it in at 73 points a team. Over looking pretty good there. Of course, down in Central Florida, they're not dealing with any of the snow that we are here in a lot of the Southeast, so they're clean, they're good, but that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye off in conference play for UCF and TCU. Going down the list, upset potential. You look at Duke, number 2 in the nation, still undefeated in conference play. I keep beating the drum. People say they're going to go undefeated in conference play. I'm not buying it. There's 4 or 5 games that you put an earmarker in that are potential L's for Duke. This is the first one on the list. At Wake Forest, quality Wake Forest team. They could give some Duke trouble, and we'll see how it kind of plays out. But if you're kind of checking the boxes, if you can, I would love to kind of find some odds on what Duke is going undefeated in conference play. I would throw down some cash on that, but that's conversation for another day. But this will be an interesting one here in Wake Forest, who's, probably on that tier 2, tier 3 here, the ACC. A win against Duke would be one that they could really put their cap into and make this conversation a lot more serious. Back to the SEC here, number 16, Ole Miss at Missouri, newly ranked Missouri, as they'll get into the mix here. Obviously, the big win against Florida a couple weeks ago. Missouri been playing some good ball. Ole Miss has kind of been up and down, and so question marks looming here. I think this is just a high-profile, good game. It kind of goes to me in a pick 'em. Missouri's favored by 1.5 from what I'm seeing right now at time of recording, but I think this will just be a good ball game. So if you're looking for something that could get kind of explosive, that will probably be pretty physical, I think this is just a fun game to watch. I got to dive in, and if I'm going to make a pick from this one, which I might later in the week, but definitely one to keep an eye on as we slide into the middle slate here. Let's keep on rolling with some of our other ones. Let's go to Conference USA, top dog, Middle Tennessee State, leading the conference in Conference USA. This is potentially a trap game. Some big opponents coming up for Middle Tennessee, and so they're going to get Louisiana Tech on the road. There's been some bad weather in the area, so look out. Potential shenanigans here. I think Middle Tennessee State still undefeated in conference. So 7th place in Conference USA, but don't sleep on it. I'm seeing no line come out, so it looks like the odds makers are a little skittish about this one here, 24-ish hours away from game time. So something to keep an eye on if you're looking for some of those automatic bids, because I'm pretty confident Conference USA was one bid league this year. Rolling on down, massive matchup, top 12 in the Big 12, Houston at Kansas. Pick them right now. Kansas favored by 1, but these are 2 of the powerful programs. It's going to be really entertaining to watch, and these teams, will be duking it out and will be at the top of the conference come season's end. Who gets the automatic bid? I don't think it matters. As long as these teams don't fall off a cliff, you'll probably see both of them in the top 2 seeds, top 3 seeds maybe, but probably going top 10 going into the tournament. So these are heavy hitters, and this is just a good ball game. We talked about the other one potentially in the SEC. This is going to be more of that kind of second, third tier teams. This could be potentially a national championship or national championship type teams going at it here in conference play. Rolling on down, of course, we've got our local flavor here with one of our favorites, Coastal Carolina and Old Dominion. This is the men's game, Coastal Carolina and Old Dominion. both coming in with a little bit of losing streaks here, skating into this matchup. So it'll be interesting to see who's up for the challenge, who's ready to go on Saturday. Coastal Carolina has been a little bit strugglesome on the road. I don't think that's a word, but in conference play, a little tough going on the road. So I think I'd give Old Dominion the advantage, but we'll see how things kind of shape out as we get closer to that game before we make the prediction. We will have a prediction on this Coastal Carolina game, so stay tuned for that one. Rolling on down the list, we'll get into the full-blown nighttime slate. Couple more to go. So many games on Saturday wanted to touch base with. Florida State and Stanford. Florida State laid an egg against Cal in their first game of their West Coast road trips. Of course, we've got the FSU loyalty. As you can see there, Gold Knowles, proud alumnus. But I liked them in that game at the beginning of the week. Going into it, I felt like they would split this road trip. I felt like they would lose one, win one. These are teams that are both in the middle of the conference that they're playing with. Stanford coming off a big win at UNC not too long ago, so don't sleep on Stanford. I think FSU will be alert for this one. The jet lag has worn off since that California game. They're going to get right, and they've got to hit this one to stay in the conversation. Once again, this Florida State team is an extended bubble team. They don't really have that iconic win, and they're floating around 6 and 7 in the conference, which ACC probably only gets 5 this year. So they're going to have to do some work to get back in, but this is a game they should win or need to win, so you have to check the box for them. So it's going to be big for both teams, but Stanford favored by 4.5, so take it as you will. Next one going down the list, Gonzaga and Portland. Gonzaga is going to travel to Portland. The Kings of the West Coast Conference, Gonzaga historically, but they are slipping. Back-to-back losses we have here. Santa Clara on the road, and then, of course, at home as well. Dropping one, or no, sorry, Santa Clara at home. So struggles for Gonzaga in conference play. They're sitting at kind of the second tier within their conference. And once again, a big week upcoming. They've got a lot of opponents. If they want to stop this skid, Portland, a team that they should beat, but anytime you go on the road in college basketball, it's going to give you trouble. So don't sleep on Portland. Keep an eye on this. This will tell you a lot about Gonzaga. Is this a couple days? Is this a tough week for Gonzaga, or is this going to be a full-blown mid-season slump? And is this going to be kind of troublesome leading forward to the tournament? I'm confident Coach Few gets it right, so I'd expect a Gonzaga dub here today if I was throwing some money in it, but something to look for. On down the line, top 6, maybe the game of the week is number 6, Tennessee at number 1, Auburn. Auburn's been up and down to a lot of people. Duke is the rightful heir to the number 1, so they'll get tested, and this will be a claim. If Auburn wins this, I think they'll put the doubters to sleep for a little bit. If Tennessee wins this, you consider them top 3 team. Not too long ago, they were undefeated, right? People forget about that all of a sudden. This should be a good contest. The line's at 141. Seems a little high scoring. Feels like a game in the 60s. Not quite the 70s, like a 68, 63 game. So take that as you will. But that's going to be a huge contest. Monster looking for a top dog. Potentially both could be number 1 seeds going into the tournament in a couple weeks. So if you like the big games, this is one for you. Massive one in the night slate. Final one to sew us up here, maybe one that you may not be super interested in, but it is one here in Conference USA that piqued my interest. It's a couple of the top dogs going at it here. So we know Middle Tennessee State is top in the conference right now, but 2 and 3 are these 2 squads. Kennesaw State traveling to UTEP. So it's a Georgia team going all the way out to Texas, all the way out to El Paso. So we'll see how that works out. But if one of these 2 teams is going to give Middle Tennessee State trouble here, at least in the regular season, obviously I think it's on the table to defeat them in the tournament. When it comes to conference play and the automatic bids, but you're jostling for position. I think who's my favorite, who could potentially end up as a 2 seed when it gets to that stage. This game will get a long way. This is a pick 'em, no side being taken from the odds makers. So take that as you will. But this will be a really fun contest. And to me, as a fan of that mid-major basketball, let the chaos reign. Chaos will prevail. Mid-major basketball, that's the beauty of the NCAA tournament. Who's going to be coming out of Conference USA looking, like we said, like a one bid league, could be a bid steal potentially going for you here, but this one will go a long way in kind of separating who's the upper crust there in Conference USA. So that's what we got here for this going on. If you've got some more teams of interest, topics of conversation, stuff you're interested in, hit us on the social media. You can see us down below, basically everywhere at Sub-Zero Sports, SUB0 Sports. Make sure to like us, hit us up if you've been enjoying the content. If not, tell us what's up, tell us what's wrong. But if you got a feature team or feature question, hashtag AskSub0 is what we're going to put in the chat. Go for the hashtag at Sub0. And so we'll be looking for that going forward today. But thanks for coming in with us here. Sub-Zero Sports, exciting ball on the table. Who's hooping and who's just messing around? I think we'll get a little more clarity, maybe some peek behind the blinds, especially in some of those smaller conferences. We've got our eyes out. So thanks for tuning in. Be well.